What's going on YouTube? It is the Humble Marksman here. If you like videos about competition shooting, over analysis, and some strange combination of both, then please consider subscribing because I'm your Huckleberry. So on deck today we have CZ Shadow 2 trigger jobs. Both of these guns have had their firing pins swapped out and reduced power spring kits put in. So I'll put that up there. This is from CZ Custom Shop. So what that's going to entail is the Ramy 2075 reduced power firing pin spring, the extended firing pin, the 13-pound mainspring, and while you're at it, I would go ahead and recommend the 11-pound recoil spring. If you don't have a spare, go ahead and get a trigger return spring just to keep on the shelf if you need it. So that spring kit alone took this pistol from having a 9-pound double action to about 7¼ pounds. It had a 3-pound single action, or 3¼ pound single action before. It dropped down to about 3 pounds on single action just with the spring changes. But I went a step further on this one. On my practice gun, I have this distinguished little gentleman here, the CZ Comp Hammer. This is a CZ UB part, is legal in IPSC competition, and it kind of looks like a weird demonic half heart versus the OEM hammer, which is this triangular job here. It's worth noting that the comp hammer significantly narrower, if you can see that there, than the stock hammer. So it hasn't had any issues. It's what they use on their custom guns at CZ Custom. But let's just go ahead and dive into what it actually does. It doesn't actually change the trigger pull weight. So you're always going to have a bit of pre-travel unless you fit a disconnector, which I don't think is personally worth the money for in these guns with what I use them for, which is competition shooting. So here we are. All right, there I've just got the sear and hammer hooks engaging, but now I can kind of squish it. You see that movement right there on the trigger before the trigger releases? There's a little bit, maybe a 1/16 of an inch of just creep in the sear and hammer hook engagement. What the comp hammer does, doesn't necessarily, as I said, lighten the trigger pull, but what it does do is, I'm trying to do the same thing there. I'm on the wall. I can get you can barely see it. I can get very little of the creep from the sear and hammer hook engagement. So there we are, a little bit, and then it breaks. So it reduces the amount of creep in the sear, and it absolutely firms up the wall, which it's very easy to stage this and just rest on the wall now. That's very easy to get to and break through. So that's a $70 part. To take it apart, you need a starter punch if you want to install it yourself, or you could visit somebody like Georgia Firing Line and let them install it for you with a competent gunsmith. And that's what it is. So if I were to recommend an action job for a practical pistol shooter on a CZ Shadow 2, I would just say swap the springs out and get an extended firing pin, and you are good to go. So that's what I got. Ultimately, I will be dropping an 11½ pound hammer spring in this bad boy for my match gun, and I will ultimately swap that out for the comp hammer just for the little bit of mental boost, knowing that I've got the best hammer you can get, and that's air quotes. You probably didn't pick up on that. So that's what I got. If this type of thing is of interest to you, please consider subscribing. We will catch you on the next one. Thank you guys.